Hi there, my name is David Yao. I'm about 25% of the Jesus Lizard, and you are listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have another guest that I've been working on getting on the show for a long time, and we finally did it. We have Brendan Murphy of End and Counterparts. Counterparts just released the excellent Heaven Let Them Die EP this past November. It is a vicious, brutal, and must-listen addition to the Counterparts discography. We talk all about that. We talk all about End, and we continue the discussion if Necessary Death has the best modern breakdown. And you know, this conversation just took a lot of turns that I didn't expect, and it was great. I can't wait for you to hear it. But first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a main channel with full video episodes and a clips channel with clips from select episodes. We have shirts for sale at our store at Death Wish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. And you can follow us on social media at New Scene Pod. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. Welcome Big Wheel Recreation to Iodine Recordings. Iodine is thrilled to announce that Boston's Big Wheel Recreation will officially be joining the Iodine Recordings family in 2025. As part of this exciting partnership, Iodine will be remastering and reissuing many Big Wheel releases, both digitally and through limited vinyl pressings. For more information, head to iodinerecordings.com, sign up for the newsletter. You'll find out about all the vinyl drops and everything first. And you can follow the label on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. And say hello to our sponsor for the month of January, 30-Something Records. 30-Something Records is an independent record label based in Berlin, Germany. It was founded by Matthias and Maren Bacher in 2019, and they've got reissues and new releases from exciting artists all over the globe, including Far, The Fire Theft, Star Market, Pop Unknown, Orange 9mm, and many more. Salil So What, the new discography from Enemy of the Sun, is available right now, and it's streaming everywhere right now. You'll really dig this if you're a fan of the noisy, more experimental side of hardcore. Belgian folk artist Philemon has 2 new singles out right now from his upcoming debut LP called Waste. And there's 2 vinyl variants up for pre-order right now at the 30-Something Records store, so go grab one. Limited quantities of Super Bloom CDs and cassettes are back in the 30-Something Records store. Super Bloom are a post-hardcore alt band out of New York City, and they're excellent, so go pick something up while supplies last. And there's still copies of Piebalds We Are the Only Friends We Have available at the 30-Something Records store. This is the Record Store Day exclusive variant on yellow and orange vinyl, and it's limited to 100 copies, so get it before it's gone. Those are shipping now. All right, so check back in with me after the conversation with Brendan. We'll check in, we'll see how everybody's doing, but right now, we are going to speak to Brendan Murphy of End and Counterparts. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Brendan Murphy. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Brendan, it's great to have you here. There's a lot going on. Counterparts just put out the excellent new LP, Heaven Let Them Die, and I'm really enjoying that. And we've got a big tour kicking off in February. In addition to all the other stuff you're up to, and we're going to talk about all of that, but Brendan, first I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
Good so far. Yeah, I've been chilling. I've spent most of the day looking at Black Friday PC sales, trying to upgrade my gaming rig. But other than that, we've been chilling. We haven't done too much this year. We've been I think we did 2 tours or something, couple one-offs. So yeah, for the most part, I'm just kind of chilling at home. So it's been a nice break. But then obviously, yeah, next year it's right back into touring nonstop. So we'll see. I'm trying to not take my home time for granted.
Right. What kind of gaming PCs do you work with? I like to buy Corsair, like the pre-set-up ones. You know, I had like a 2 PC setup for a while because I was doing some streaming on Twitch, but I downgraded to a 1 PC setup and I don't stream anymore. So I've got a 3090 now, and that's sufficient for everything I'm doing. How about you?
Yep. Yeah. When I was in high school, I did I was like working at a computer store, and I've always kind of been into computers, so that's kind of where like everything, where I like learned how to work on PCs and everything like that. So for me, I like the building aspect of it. There's not too many things that I enjoy doing in my life where, like if there's an option to have somebody else do it for me, I usually take it. But yeah, when it comes to PCs, I do actually like, I like putting it together from scratch. I mean, my setup right now is what I built over the quarantine for COVID. I've upgraded some stuff as of late. I mean, the last thing I did, I think I got a AMD like the 5800 X3D processor. I'm currently looking at new graphics cards, even though I know the new ones come out soon. I'm like, I'm trying to outweigh the options between. So I have a 3060 now, and I'm trying to outweigh, like, do I go for like a 4070 Ti or a 4080 Super and rock that and sort of skip the next generation of graphics card and skip AM5, or do I just wait a couple months and then just do like a brand new crazy, top of the line build? And it's like, all right, do I want to spend like $1,000 now, or do I, and it'll be pretty good and I can skip a gen, or do I want to wait, or do I want to wait a couple months and even be able to get a graphics card for retail price instead of off a scalper, and then do a whole new thing and spend like $3,000. I don't know. I'm kind of just looking for deals, and if something stands out, I'm just like, yeah, all right, sure. There's been a couple, but I don't think the graphics cards will fit my case. So I'm just like, if it was an easy swap, I would just go do it. But I'm like, I think if I upgrade that, then I probably got to get a new power supply. And, I don't know if it'll get in the way of my AIO cooler. It's all nerd stuff, but who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows what I'll end up doing? I'm also just, again, we're home, so I'm kind of just bored. And I'm like, yeah, I can spend some money. That'll take up 3 hours of my night. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I guess if for right now, it is good enough. Like, most of the games, like I can play. Maybe I can't, I got to drop down the graphic settings to hit at least 60, but whatever. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how the deals pan out.
I like that. I like that you can build everything too, and about whether or not the power supply can handle it. Like, it's very intricate stuff. I've watched people do it on YouTube. It's got to be a great skill to have.
It's I mean it is, it's pretty helpful. I mean, the thing is too, like when you're buying like a pre-built, it is sick, but you're paying a premium to have somebody else put it together. You know what I mean? So for me, luckily enough, I'm like good enough with it to, I can put it together, and it's like, okay, then you can kind of trade that money, the money that you would be spending, like extra money, I guess you'd be spending to have somebody else put it together for you. You can kind of put that into better parts, like better individual parts, let's say. So, I'm definitely thankful that I've learned how to do it. And yeah, I don't know, for whatever reason, it is just kind of fun. It's just, like like as frustrating as it is sometimes, like trying to, cable management and, like, oh, got to touch some metal so I don't fry the CPU, like all of those things. It's annoying, but it is kind of sick to game on a rig that you're like, yeah, I like put this together myself. And you can customize it and everything. But yeah, one of my only skills really, it's like it's straight up that and like yelling are like probably the only two things I'm good at. So yeah, if I ever don't play music for a living, like I guess I'm gonna go apply at some computer stores.
You mentioned there's not a whole lot of things you enjoy doing, and that struck me because I think I feel the same way. I'm sort of constantly in search of something that's going to make me feel something, because previously in life, I was an addict and an alcoholic, so I was like numbing feelings and feeling something all the time, right? And since I put that all away a number of years ago, I'm sort of constantly in search of something that's going to make me feel something, whether it's like playing a great show or doing an amazing podcast or a TV show that's going to make me feel something or a video game that's going to make me feel something. I'm always looking for that hit. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, like absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it. That's I think, yeah, I mean, just for like, I guess it kind of for like that thing for like for me, I've kind of felt that way my whole life, and I definitely think throughout, like I kind of found that in like music and playing shows and stuff like that, and then seeing how quickly it can go away with COVID and everything. It was like that was like everyone's just forced to take a 2-year break. We just couldn't, and I couldn't leave the house, and I'm sitting around and I'm just like, what do I even do? Like, what do I like? Like, I don't, everyone, and people always say like, oh, like, you need hobbies or something. And as of late, it's been video games. Like, I've always kind of played them, but never really got too into them. I was mostly, like like over COVID and stuff, it's like I'd play multiplayer stuff with my friends, and that, that was cool. But lately I've just kind of been doing single player stuff, and like actually, doing challenging stuff. I try and play like Elden Ring and stuff, games that I would have never played in the past, because I'm like, there's no way I can beat that. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm not that good. But yeah, just sort of challenging yourself and trying to find something to occupy time. And I've had, as of July, I quit drinking too, and it was you know that was sort of like, it took up so much of my, I guess, like the social aspect of my life. Like everything kind of revolved around like, okay, like I'm bored, like let's go to a bar, let's go do this, like let's get drinks, and quitting that and just being like, oh, like I don't do that anymore, and trying to find something to occupy your time that does give you a similar dopamine hit it's really tricky. Luckily, I guess I found something in the, at least in the meantime now, in video games. But yeah, it feels weird, especially doing that and sort of like, using something to like sort of give you that dopamine hit and then taking it away. And then you kind of realize like, did I even like any of the stuff I was doing? Or is this just like, was it just booze that made shitty, boring stuff seem cool? And like, I think of that a lot, like definitely, especially now, like when we do, when we play these like 3-day festivals and stuff, when I was hanging with friends and we were just like getting blasted for a weekend, I was like, this is so sick. And then we did Furnace Fest sober, and I'm just sitting around and I'm like, dude, I'm so bored. Like I'm going to go back to the hotel and play Elden Ring or Wukong or something. Like this sucks kind of, but it's a learning experience for sure. And sort of trying to see what you can, trying to find new things and like new hobbies as like, I'm 33 and like trying to figure out what I'm into at that age. It's like kind of crazy, cause it was like not much for so long. And then it was music, and it's like, okay, there's gotta be more to me than that. It's just tough, it's hard to find. But yeah, games, that's, thank God for games. That's what helped me quit drinking for sure.
Yeah, me too. When I put everything down, I got back into gaming and then really got into gaming again during COVID. Like Warzone, I was super into, but they kind of ruined that game and it made me really unhappy because I'm too competitive. So I'm back to like single player stuff too. And I still haven't figured out the social angle, because like you said, I could sit in a bar all day with my friends for 14 hours. And then it's like, well, let's find a guy who has this, or let's go into this neighborhood to get that. And that, yeah, like it seemed fun at the time, but did I enjoy it? I don't know. And I still haven't figured things out, because
it's so weird.
Like socially, I'm still fucked up. I still don't know what I'm doing socially now. Like I'm still trying to figure it out after years and years.
Yeah, it's very, it's like, it's such a like not only, it's like a crazy feeling to begin with, like when you couple it with the fact that you're not, you've like cut this substance out of your life. Like, it's weird enough being like, okay, well, I don't go to the bar anymore, and like, but it's like other things, like I said, like being at festivals and shows and stuff, and it's like, it was scary for me coming back and being like, oh man, like I'm like playing shows sober, and I'm like, what if I don't like playing shows? Like, then what? Like, then do I even like being in a band? Then if I don't even like being in a band, then why am I doing it? And then being like, well, if I don't like being in a band, like, what else do I do? Like, oh, nothing. And it's like, oh, this sucks. Like, I've got nothing. There's nothing that I actually enjoy. And it's like really scary and like daunting for sure. But, and you know, I went through that, like, especially the first couple months, just being like, oh man, like, what if like who I am and like the stuff that I like doing, like, what if I was just way off, and I just have to have this like switch, like this, like, you know, like start a new character or something, and I'm just like, and it's just completely different. I'm like, are my friends gonna like me? Like, what? It's a really scary thing, but luckily, I mean, you know, I think I'm still pretty much the same guy, but definitely, I mean, at the very least, I'm saving a lot of money, so that rocks. But
That's good.
But you know, and like, yeah, generally feel like healthier and stuff. I feel more present in my day-to-day life, which can be good, can be bad also. But yeah, it's a crazy thing going from, yeah, like, just, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a substance, just like going from having this thing that's so normal in your life and so constant, and just, it's not there anymore. It's a crazy thing.
It is. What prompted you to quit? I feel like maybe it's been a struggle for you for a while, because I read that Heaven Let Them Die, that's the first time you recorded sober in something like 10 years, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah.
So like, what prompted you to stop? I mean, has it been a struggle for a while? Have you been trying to quit for a while?
No, like, not necessarily. I've been like, I would kind of take, like, I would take, you know, like a month off here and there, or like, you know, really for me, like, I guess I was fortunate enough to where I don't know how like physically addicted I was. I think I definitely thought that it was worse than it was. I think for me, it was such an emotional thing, because it was such like a easy tool, like a readily available tool for me to just get through. Like, if it was like, you know, because because at first, you know, we had sort of got like that vibe of like being like a party kind of band, and you know, it used to be this thing where it was like pre-COVID, we'd go on tour, and you know, we'd go on tour, we'd get free booze every night on the rider. Like, we'd swallow it all. We'd like be partying and be so fun, and it would make the tour so fun. And then I'd go home, and then I wouldn't drink at all, because I'd be like, well, like, aside from, you know, celebration, someone's birthday, whatever. And then over COVID, it was like, you know, I had done most of it, and I just like wasn't really drinking. And I was like, wait a minute, like, I can just get wine, like a box of wine at the grocery store. The lines at the liquor store are too long. Like, I'll just buy boxes of wine. And then I started doing that. And then it was like, oh, now this is like this fun thing I do on tour, but it's also this weird escape for being at home and being bored, and it makes everything more fun. And then it just became, you know, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. And then it was like, you know, having issues and dealing with like all of the stuff that I talk about on Eulogy, with, you know, like my cat dying, and relationships coming and going. And, you know, I was upset about it. And then I would use it to, it's like, oh, I feel shitty. I'm bummed out about something, like, have some drinks, I'll feel better. And then it got to a point where it was like every emotion that you can experience was tied to like, oh, I'm really happy. Like, let's have a drink and celebrate. Like, oh, this is going to be boring, like a boring day. Like, I'm going to get a little drunk for it, or like, I'm miserable, let's get drunk. Like, and it just happened so much. And I had, you know, like I said, I had taken a month off here and there and sort of like cut back a little bit, but I was always really worried that if I just stopped, that, you know, when you read about like quitting cold turkey and stuff, is all the, like, you can have a seizure, like all of these things. And I was really worried that something was going to happen. So I always kind of like, you know, I would like drink a little. But what really did it was we came home from Europe, and it was like, you know, we were home for a day, and then the LCBO, like the liquor stores in Ontario, were going on strike. And it was like, well, you can get beer and wine at the grocery store. And I was like, well, I like wine, but I'm at the point where like, it would take me like a couple bottles to get, to get to the level of drunk that I'm after. And I hate beer, always have, like, would rather, drink piss, but like, so it was just like, oh, they're going on strike. And I just was like, I quit. I'm out. Like, that was sort of the last thing. I was like, I'm quitting. If by day 3 or 4, if I start feeling weird, like, I'll just go to the hospital. Like, I'm done. This is like a sign. Like, it's lined up. Like, it's go time. Like, I got to stop. And that was the last time I drank. So luckily I didn't have any withdrawal stuff or nothing. Like I said, I think, 'cause historically, I'm a pretty big hypochondriac. So I scared myself into like not doing it sooner, I think, but I'm glad that I did. And, yeah, it's been, the pros definitely outweigh the cons for sure. I mean, there's definitely times when I'm just like, good God, like, we're waiting at a show and I'm like, oh my God, we don't play for like 10 hours. Like, fuck, it would be so good to just start drinking now. Like, that would pass time. But I'm like, nope, I gotta just, I gotta just deal with it. This is my life. This is the life that I picked for myself. So I gotta take it.
That's the tragic part. Is I really miss the late night camaraderie, shenanigans, fun stuff. It's like, oh, we could be at the venue and get fucked up. But it's like, if I do that, I'm going to pull a Jimmy Chamberlain and just disappear and be wandering the streets looking for other stuff. And there's no in between. There's no in between for me. So I just can't do it. So it's like, I either have to be sober and feel awkward and not engage as much socially, or be a complete mess. Like, that's it.
For sure. Yeah. And like, yeah. I think I was like, luckily, I mean, like, alcohol is really the only thing that I ever, like, so it wasn't like, if I got drunk, I was looking for other things necessarily. But the bad part for me too was like, I think I was very functioning, and I think like there'd be times where someone would be like, oh, can you like go get the van or whatever? And I'm like, no. And they're like, why not? And I'm like, I'm blackout. Like, I can't even really see. And they're like, you're drunk? I couldn't tell. And like, that was always a thing. And people just like couldn't, unless I was really, really messed up, like, people couldn't really tell. And so I had this like big head about it where I'm just like, oh yeah, like, I'm not, like, it's not a problem. Like, I don't do bad things. I'm not like, it's not like I'm getting drunk and ruining my life and hurting people and driving drunk and flipping the car. It's like, I was like, no, like, I still get everything done. I can still perform. Like, I can still tour manage a tour and answer emails. So I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Like, it's not affecting me. But then, then it gets to a point where it's just like, yeah, if I don't stop now, I think it's like, it's going to get to the point where it's actually going to have a negative impact. So I'm like, let's just avoid that altogether, and I'll just stop. I'll stop before it gets bad. Like, I've talked to some other friends who have quit, and they're like, you stopped at like the right time. Like, that was like where the path split into two. And it was like, you either stop and figure your shit out, or you get bad and like get wasted and start looking for fights and start doing dumb shit and getting in trouble. And they're like, you did it at the right time. Like, it didn't get bad, but you were probably a couple months away from that point. And I'm like, okay, fair. So, and here I am. And now I just play games. So
yeah. Hey, that's not a bad place to be. I saw that you beat Elden Ring recently, and mad respect for that, because I'm like 40 hours in, and I don't know if I'm at that point. I'm like, do I keep going or do I not keep going? And I just don't know if it's for me. Like, how was it for you?
I don't even. So I beat it. My total playtime now, I haven't done the DLC yet, but my total playtime now, I'm at 115 hours. I still don't even really know if it's for me, honestly. Because I had got it before. I played for maybe 20 minutes, and I was like, nope, this is too hard. Like, no chance. And I just uninstalled it. And then I, did like Cyberpunk, and then it was like, I played Wukong, and I heard that was similar to like a Souls game. And I really, really liked that game. So I was like, I'm going to give Elden Ring another shot. And everybody, like, or Tyler and Jesse in the band, like, they're very into it. So I kind of had them like coaching me and stuff. Like, I remember when we were doing the music video, I was playing in the hotel room, and they were just but like I had it on the TV and they were kind of behind me, sort of giving me tips and stuff. And I was like, okay, I kind of get this. And I like that it's difficult. It's like difficult, but it's doable. Like I like, there's always it's like the big, like the hardest, craziest boss. It's like, there's usually always something, there's some way to beat it. And I like that element to it, but it's a very, very confusing game. That was the biggest hurdle for me. Like I had to play with it, the game on one monitor and the walkthrough on the other, just because there's not only is it confusing, there's so much stuff that you can just straight up miss and like leave behind. Or like if you do something in the wrong order, that locks you out of a quest line, and then you don't get this like item that you need that'll help you in the game and all of these things. And I was like, I can't take the chance. So I will say, like, it was fun. I've played the DLC a little bit. It's really hard. Like, it's way harder. Like the mini bosses are like harder than some of the bosses in Elden Ring. It's like, it's very difficult, but for now I just kind of needed a break. I was like, all right, like I beat the stupid game. I didn't think I could do it. But I couldn't stop either. It was like, that was my thing, is I got probably around to where you're at, and I'm like, nope, I paid for it. It's a fucking game. I'm going to beat it. Like I'm not doing anything else till I beat it. I feel really good. I mean, when I did beat it, like, I was like jumped out of my seat and was like yelling in my room because I beat it. So I guess it is worth it. But yeah, people ask, they're like, oh, you beat Elden Ring. Like, isn't it the best? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know if it's like good. I don't know. I'm like, I had to beat it. So
I just want to do it. Like, I just want to say that I did it. I've never played any other FromSoft game. I just want to do that eventually.
Yeah. And that was the first FromSoft game for me too. And, I've always been kind of like, when I play with friends and stuff, it's like playing online games and like first person shooter games and all that stuff. It's always like, I'm the worst. Like, I'm the worst at it. Like, everyone's got to carry me. And I mean, it's still very much a thing, but everyone's just so good at it. And it's like, oh, like Brennan's dead again. We got to pick him up. We got to do this shit. And I'm like, I got to prove that I can like do this. And then when I was doing it, like, there were certain bosses and stuff that Jesse would watch me get a boss second try or something. And then him and Tyler would be freaking out, being like, 2 tries, like that guy took me a week, like you're OP, like all of this stuff. And like, it felt good just being like, I'm not the worst at a game. Like, out of my friend group, like, I'm not the worst at it. Like, this, it rocks, So it was really cool to kind of prove that I could do it. But yeah, and just that it takes up so much of your time. It's like, it's kind of nice to have something to do.
Right. So Counterparts just surprise dropped Heaven Let Them Die, which is a phenomenal EP, by the way. I like the surprise drop, right? Like, it's hard to do now because of all this single lead up bullshit and everything with streaming platforms that we have to do now. But the surprise drop is cool. Like, I remember when Hum surprise dropped Inlet during the pandemic. I'll never forget that. Like, the surprise drop is awesome.
Yeah, and like that's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Like, a lot of artists don't do it, but there's always something cool about that. Like, just out of nowhere, like, no, not even like uploading the album art and being like tomorrow at like midnight or something. Like, it's just out of nowhere. Like, yo, EP's out. You can listen to the entire thing right this second. Like, as soon as you're done reading this and click this link, like, it's yours. And I've always thought that was really cool. And I know that with labels and stuff, it's like, when they labels spend like 50, 75, 100 grand on a full length record, it's like, I could see them being like, no, that's stupid. Like, that's really dumb. Like, we want this to do well. We want our money back. So we're doing a whole rollout. Like, we're doing singles and music videos. We're announcing the record with pre-orders. I'm like, I get it. But luckily I wanted to do it with Eulogy, and everyone was just like, no, like, we're not, that's dumb. And then finally I convinced everybody with this EP. I was like, let's do it. Like, let's just drop it out of nowhere. And I think that given the fact that it was a surprise drop, like somehow didn't leak. Like I have even friends that I just like, it just didn't come up, I guess, and didn't tell them. And they were like, yo, like you didn't mention this at all. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I did do a pretty good job at keeping this a secret.
That's the only way to really keep it a secret.
For sure. Yeah. And, and we were very selective with like who we told about it and stuff. And like, yeah, like, I mean, close friends. Like if someone's like, when are you guys doing new music? I would just be like, oh, we have a surprise thing coming out in November. And everyone's like, oh shit. But yeah, we tried really hard to keep it under wraps. And I think that given the fact that it was a surprise drop, but then also because the music was really heavy, like the heaviest stuff we've done, both of those and dropping one music video for 2 songs, that's like the coolest, most expensive music video we've ever done. And it's like, they're cutting the head off a goat and people are getting stabbed and drowned and there's a guy on fire, like all this crazy shit. It's like it all kind of played into when the surprise drop happened, it just being like it turned heads and it created this like urgency around the band that we had never seen before. And that was one thing that we had all talked about and been like, that's something that's missing. Like we're always the kind of band where it's like, oh, Counterparts have a new record coming out. Like, yeah, I'll listen to it eventually. Or like, oh, they announced a tour. Like, yeah, I'll wait. And like, yeah, if I don't have anything to do that night, like I'll just buy a ticket at the door. We've always been that band. So doing this thing out of nowhere and just like turning all of these heads and getting people talking and like creating this like hype around the band that hasn't existed, it all just worked very, very well. And just because we've been off this year, like we get to watch it. We get to watch it snowball and grow, and like we can like see the response at home. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's not like on tour being like, oh, we're so busy. Like, oh, I didn't even notice it's at like it broke 2 million streams on Spotify. It's like, now we get to like actually watch it happen in real time, which is really cool. And it's really cool to be right, like to suggest like this surprise drop and, a video for 2 songs and us together as a whole being like, we want to go heavier. We know it's going to do well. And just be right feels sick. Like it's so like, cause if it backfired, like we'd never hear the end of it. I'd be so embarrassed, but luckily it didn't. And it just, yeah, it's been insane. And it's like, yup. And then it changes the perception of the band. And, we announced the tour and it's the huge venues that like, I'm scared to play. I don't, like they're terrifying. Like we're playing venues that are 1,000 more like capacity than on the last headliner. And it's like, yeah, I'm scared shitless. Like, I don't know if they're going to fill, but we got to try it. And even just the whole perception around the band seems to have changed into like, oh, like, okay, they're like doing it. Like they're like going for it now. And not that we weren't in the past, it just wasn't as apparent, I guess. And now there's the aura around the band has shifted a little bit. And I think it's cool. It's a cool spot to be in for sure.
Big time. Counterparts, no stranger to heaviness, but we did go full heavy on the EP. Was that decided ahead of time? Was that just what came out when we were writing? Like, how did we collectively come to this decision?
I think like, so it was decided, it was decided ahead of time, but it was like really sort of solidified in the studio when we were recording it. We had just kind of talked as a band, like, what do we want to do? Like, what do we do for this next record? And, we're all talking about it and we're just like, I think like, doing like, cause the last 2 North American tours that we've done, and Europe, I guess it was like, we did the 2 Devil Wears Prada Fit for a King tours, like the 2 legs of that. And then we did the Euro summer festivals. So on both of those, we're not headlining and, we're not the draw. So when you do those shows, it's like, there are going to be a lot of people that have no idea who you are on those shows. And while, certain songs, like we can play them on a headline tour and they'll smash and everybody in the room will be going nuts, but we'll do them at a festival in Europe at 2 p.m. in a field and like people are just kind of staring. And even on the Devil Wears Prada Fit tour, it's like a lot of the kids in the room were their fans. Like, yes, obviously there's crossover, but we were a new band to a lot of people, and we were just like, okay, what gets a response out of those people when we're playing live? And it was like the heavy stuff just goes over so well. It was like, when we do like Choke and Your Own Knife and the one or two really heavy songs from every record that we have, those are the ones that make the crowd go the craziest. And we were just like, what if we just did a whole EP of all of that? Like, then we've got it in the bag for like when we do headliners, and we can play the EP because those kids, they already like us and they're gonna like this stuff because kids like the heavy Counterpart songs. But then we can play these songs to 20,000 people that don't know who we are, but they know when to mosh and they know when to crowd surf and stuff. And it's like, so let's do that. And also it's just more fun to play for sure. Like, in a live setting, it's like, yeah, I want the energy to be up. Like, it's cool to do the really melodic, like, kind of instrumental parts and everything. But yeah, like, what do I do? You know what I mean? It's like, I just kneel at the kick drum and like hit my vape and kind of wait around, and it brings the energy down. And we were just like, we just want to do something where it's just all bangers front to back. It doesn't let up, but and be really heavy, but do it in a way that Counterparts would. Like, any of these songs could be on any album that we've done in the past, and it's not like they would stand out. So yeah, when we went into the studio and when we were doing pre-production and putting songs together and stuff, like, we were, that was always a thing. It was just like, oh, like, this is a breakdown, but it's like kind of smart still. Like, the timing's weird, or, the pattern's kind of crazy and like hard to nail down. And we're like, no, like, whatever, like, time and place for that. There's a million Counterparts breakdowns that are like that. Literally just give them open and go like dun, 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 like, make it easy. And then that sort of dictated the EP as a whole. And for me personally, writing lyrics to parts that are like heavy and in a normal time signature is awesome. I hate doing like trying to write over math parts. It's like the worst part about being in both bands that I'm in. That last end, like full length, like when I heard the instrumentals for that, I like wanted to quit. I was like, I'm not smart enough for this.
That must have been rough, right? Because it's very intricate stuff.
Like, yeah. And it's like not only trying to like get you have to like get a catchy pattern over like smart guy music nerd stuff. And then, but you also have to like write lines where you can like express something, and but it has to be like a complete thought, right? Like, you can't just have a line like, oh, I need 5 syllables here, and just like start a line and then there's like a 20-second break and then you come back to it and finish your thought. It's like, it's really hard to kind of pin that down. So for me, with lyrics and stuff, I was like, this rocks. I'm like, yeah, if this is what lyric writing can be, like, this rules for me. Like, I can actually do this. The math nerd stuff, like, I've told Will and Greg, like, I've joked about it. I'm like, you write like, I get another batch of demos that sound like this, like, I will quit the band so fast. Your head will spin. So, I'm like, I'm not music nerd guy. Like, I just want to yell. So it was really cool to be able to do that and like not be kind of constrained to like, well, I have this really cool line, but I can't fit it in this fucking math part. You know what I mean? So yeah, it made the whole experience a lot easier for me. And I think, yeah, it was just more fun. So I just cared more, I just put more into it. I was in a better mood. I tried a little bit harder for sure.
I've also seen you say, like, we see a lot of bands be really heavy and then go the opposite direction and become more melodic, but rarely or not as often do we see bands that are heavy and then get heavier. So I really like when bands do that. I think Converge is a good example. Like, they started out heavy and they just got heavier and heavier. And they've done melodic stuff too, but they just get more vicious. And I like that. And does that as well.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's sort of like, we've always kind of been like the band where it's like, with Counterparts anyway, it's like, we do what we want. And it's like, yeah, it's no secret. Like, when you like, like a bunch of our peers, and like not even peers, just like bands in our world, you see it happen, and you see it's like the first couple releases like really heavy, and then it's like, oh, but we start doing the clean singing thing, and have like the whatever, like the detuned like Sirius XM riffs, and it's like we can do that and just like get big. And for us, we've always been like, no, like we're not doing that. And it's just like, okay, so what's the opposite? And it's like, go heavier, go scarier. Like people are doing that to like make it more accessible, so that way they can appeal to more people. And we're on the other side being like, what if we did the opposite? Like what if we made it like scarier, you know what I mean? And like made it like, it's like, oh, this is blast beats and there's like slam parts, and it's like, let's make this like less accessible even. But obviously within reason to like, it's like, let's not like our main thing is like, we never want to alienate the fan base that we do have. It's way too late in our career to do that. Like when you see bands do that, like, not that I think they're doing it on purpose, being like, oh, like everyone who likes us now, like fuck them, they're poor. Like we want to be poppy and have like rich, like, like do more like pop element song stuff, and like not like poppy as in the artist, I mean pop music-y. But like, I mean, yeah, there you go. She's an example. Like she did the opposite, just got scarier, and it's like, that's the coolest shit. But yeah, people do that to, or sorry, when they do that, that's like what, album 2 or 3 in their career. Like that's when the shift happens. Like we're not going to do that on album 7 or 6 or 8 or whatever it is at this point. It's like, nah, like it's a little late for that. I think like we gotta be the band that we are, but like we can, yeah, we can add some different elements every once in a while and get away with it. And it's worked for us, thankfully. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe if we switched our sound up, record 3, we might be a bigger band. We also might not be a band because it might have just sucked and everybody could have hated it. So we always try to do everything within reason and make sure it's like, we can do new things, but it doesn't, it's not so out there that it's going to alienate the fan base that we do have. So that's been a really important thing for us.
I think it needs to be the perfect balance of staying true to yourself and trying new things, and then also respecting your fan base. And of course, if you do a major shift, like it could really benefit you, or it could result in something great. But, I like to keep those two things in mind.
For sure. Yeah. And like there's been examples where that has worked for sure. And it's like, good for you. Like that, like you're playing, especially if it's like, oh, we don't want to play this shit anymore. Like we just want to write what we like, and bands do it. And it's like, yeah, like that, you nailed it. It's like, this is the best stuff, like the best, like music you guys have made. And that's awesome. But there's a lot more examples of people doing it. And it's just like, oh, like, album 3, they switched it up. And then it's like, you probably don't get an album 4 because it doesn't appeal to new people. And the people that they did have that were into the band, they're just like, oh, nope, like they did the thing. Like, forget it. I'm over them now. So yeah, never want to be that band for sure.
I saw you roasting people online because they were saying the new Counterparts, like, oh, this just sounds like End. And I think this is something that happens when somebody is in more than one notable band. I've noticed, like, I'll never forget when Seosin put out that LP in 2016 that had Anthony Green back on vocals. I remember looking at Reddit, and a couple people were like, oh, this just sounds like Circa Survive. And those two bands don't sound anything alike on any 2 records. So I think people just like, oh, guy in 2 bands, let me compare them.
For sure. And like, that's exactly it. And it's like, when I like it, like, I mean, it, like, I guess it didn't really like, it didn't make me too mad. Cause at the end of the day, I'm just like, well, anybody that like, if you like, if you have the stems and you mute my voice and it's like you play the music of Counterparts and End, it's like anyone with like a brain can be like, these don't sound the same. But yeah, when you put me over top of it, it's like yes, on the new record, like I'm doing more like higher screams and lower screams, but it's like that mid range, like Counterparts scream that I do, it's like that's still like the main vocal, and also if let's say I couldn't do that and like I did just have to do vocals the same way, it's like the bands don't sound the same, like I sound the same, and it's like, yeah, it's my throat, like it's my voice, like I can't change that, so and yeah, like I like I'm listening to it and it's like, okay, like yeah, I guess there's similarities, but it's like, oh, what, like blast beats, like End has blasts. It's like Counterparts has had blast beats before End was a band. Like it's blast beats. Like the breakdowns, the heaviness, it's like, is it End or is it just like, oh, this sounds like heavier Counterparts? And it's like, if heavier Counterparts, like if anybody's like drawing a comparison to like what would heavier Counterparts sound like End, it's like, yeah, that's like I said, it's like low hanging fruit. It's like T-ball. It's like, oh, because what? Because Will Putney recorded the Counterparts record and is in End, and Brendan does vocals in both bands. It's like, you can like, yeah, it's not even low hanging fruit. It's just like eating off the ground. It's like that's such an easy comparison to make. You know what I mean? Like,
people just like to find a reason to dismiss something. Like they'll be like, oh, everything from God City sounds the same, or oh, everything from this label sounds the same. But it's usually people not making anything that say that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And I know that I guess like I feel like some of the other guys were kind of bummed, or like not like bummed necessarily, but they're just like, like, and they're just like, yeah, like, I don't know, like, yeah, I know what Ends, like, I don't actively like listen to End. I'm like, yeah, I know. But then, I was trying to tell him, I was just like, yeah, but you have to think like in every 1,000 comments, if there's like, realistically, it's like, those are 3 kids that say, oh, this sounds like End, or, oh, I miss, like, I wish it wasn't all heavy, like I miss the melodic stuff. And it's like, yeah, but that means that there's like 996, 97 kids that are just like, this is the best fucking shit Counterparts has ever done. And it's like, yeah, those 3 kids, like, more or less, like they sound like they're fucking dumb anyway. And they're probably not even like coming to shows. It's like, these are like internet kind of kids where it's like, they just comment on shit and they just bitch about stuff. And it's like, you're never going to make them happy. Like, they're the kids that are like, oh, some North America tour, like this look kind of just looks like US and Canada. And it's like, my brother, like, look up what North America is, dog. Like, or like, oh, you said you were doing Canadian dates, like you're doing 5. And it's like, there's like it's like, there's only 5 cities worth playing, like worth my time to play in Canada. Like, I'm not going to fucking like Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario and playing a show. It's like, I'm good. I don't need to do that anymore. It's like, and
no
even
Newfoundland stop.
Yeah, right. And it's like, and even if we fucking did, and we played your town, you would find a way to not go. And then you'd be like, oh fuck, I didn't know, or oh, I have homework, or oh, I had to work that day. And it's like, those are the kids you can never make happy. And it's just like, if every comment was like that, I'd be like, guys, I think we fucking blew it. Like I think we messed up on this one. But if 90% of the comments are like insanely positive, it's like, we won. We won. We see it in the response to the EP, in the like ticket sales for the tour. Like, we announced the tour, like 2 weeks ago or something, a week ago, and seeing the ticket sales, I'm just like, yeah, that's more than in a week. That's more than what the amount of people we had total when we played that city last time. It's like, we won. We did it. Like, I'm not going to let a couple kids piss me off. I'm going to make fun of them for sure, but I'm not going to let them like sour do like this really cool thing that we did, for sure.
No, you can't let yourself get one guide. I do sometimes, but you just can't do it.
Sometimes I do, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, who cares? It's like, and then even then, for me, it's like, I do it and I'm like, okay, like I'm like going for this guy. And it's like, I go to their profile and like look at their shit. And I'm like, dude, they haven't listened to like a fucking like heavy record in our world since like 2012. It's like, bro, do we care about their opinion at this point? It's like, like you go to their shit and it's like, they're posting like Carnival Carrier stuff, or they're talking to like, oh, I miss 100 still screamed. And it's like, God damn it. Like, get with it, dude. Like, join us in the fucking year of our Lord 2024. Like,
Exactly.
So it's, but it's still like, I get it. It's still like frustrating. Like, obviously I want everybody to just love it, but as long as most people love it, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like that's all it takes. As long as I'm not making less money, I'm good. I can still do this.
At what point, when End was getting started, did you get brought in, and how?
I think it was like, so like Will kind of put that together, and I guess it was kind of from the beginning. Like, we had talked about it when we were doing a Counterparts record, and he was like, we were just talking about, like, I think it was because we were doing one of those, like, one Counterparts really heavy songs on every record, and we were just talking about, like, I was talking about, like, I want to do like a band like this. I want to be in just like a really heavy, like, scarier band. And he's like, yeah, like I want to do that. And I was like, kind of thinking about doing something like that too. And he's like, I've got an idea for some guys. Like, let me ask around. And then I remember him being like, yeah, I've been talking to Greg Thomas. Like, he used to be in Misery Signals and Hallude and like With Honor and Risk Taken and all these bands. And he's like, yeah, he has a studio too. And he wants to do something heavy. And then he's like, for bass. And he's like, oh, I can ask like Jay Pepito, like he's nearby. And, Jay was in like Reign Supreme. They did some records with Will, and Jay's in a million bands, and it like that worked out. And then it was Andrew McEnany used to be in Structures, and he's in like Tradewind and all those bands. And he's like, oh, like he kind of put the band together, and he was like, I think, yeah, like let's try this, like let's see what's going on. And him and Greg ended up just like hanging out and writing stuff, and they each wrote a bunch of songs and pre-pro'd them together, put it together, and then they sent me the demos, and I was like, yeah, this is sick. Like, I want to do this. And I remember I had known Andrew obviously and Jay. I hadn't met Greg before, but it was like I met Greg like at the studio when we were doing the EP. Like, went out, was like, hey, what's up, man? I'm Brendan. Like, I guess we're in a band together now. And that was my first time meeting Greg. And so yeah, I mean, I guess kind of from the beginning, it was I at least I don't know, like I it seemed like it was kind of like me and Will talking, and that sort of like sparked like, okay, let's actually try and do this.
I remember reading, I've had Greg on the show. He mentioned Turmoil being an influence, and I had Will on recently, and I asked him if he was into them, and he said that as well. How about you?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Like, especially all of the, like, so with End, it's like, it is kind of cool because it, like, there's a lot, like, as far as like the darker, heavy world goes, it kind of scratches all of those itches. Like, while for me, I'm like, my favorite part about End is like the grindcore kind of stuff, like where it's like just straight blast, like the black metal almost influence, like songs like Worthless is the Lamb and like Absence and stuff like that. The really like the black metal chords with the high screaming and shit like that. I'm like, that's like, I love that stuff. But then at the same time, you also get that like 90s metalcore element with like Turmoil and like heavier kind of like heavier kind of like fight type riffs with those bands. And then you also have this like crust, like kind of like a crust like D-beat element where it's like, there's like Cursed influence and like His Hero Is Gone and like all of those, like the weird, like still in the hardcore world, it's just that like kind of crustier sound. And then the only thing that like doesn't do anything for me, I'm just doing it, is like the bigger, like I guess the slower, like not even necessarily doomier, but like the the more like the slower songs, like I'm trying to like can't even think of the fucking name of it, like the last song on I think it was on Splinters, like just the really slow and like atmospheric stuff. Like if there's one thing about End that I would change, I'm like, I don't really fuck with that, or like the industrial stuff. I'm like, that was just never really my thing. But it's give and take, right? It's like that shit's like really, like Greg and Will like really love that stuff. For me, I'm like watching them try and fucking set up the keyboards and sample pads and shit to do that live. I'm just like, yeah, or we could just be a grind band and have 40-second songs of blasts and like slam parts. Like that's way cooler to me personally. But
Yeah.
it does kind of touch on like end is it's cool because we can kind of play with a lot of different types of bands, you know, like we can go out with Full of Hell and like do that sort of stuff, and then we can, you know, we can do shit with like just more straight up like heavier bands. Like we could go out with like a Gojira type thing. It's like there's all of these there's a lot of different avenues that we can go down with that band, which is cool. But for me, I'm like, yeah, give me the grind and the, you know what I mean? But
I like that. Yeah, it's a great curation of different heavy riffs. But that's interesting to hear that you don't love all of it. Like the industrial stuff, you're not the most stoked on. So what happens? Do you get demos and you're like, oh no, like this is different than what I was expecting?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, I mean, I guess I won't say that like I don't like it. Like I like the songs, like they're, you know, like they always end up being cool. But if for me, I'm just like, you know, when I get demos and stuff and they're like, you know, they sound like Absinthe, like, or Worthless is the Lamb, or like Twice Devoured Kill, like those sort of songs, I'm really stoked. And then when I see them and it's like I'm looking at them and it's got the length and stuff, and it's like, okay, like we got 1 minute and 45, like we got 2 minutes, 1 minute and 10, like fuck yeah. And then it gets down and I see one of them and it's like 5 minutes. I'm just like, God damn it. Like I know what that one's going to be. It's like just a bunch of like shit. And I'm like, fuck, like just from like, it's not even that I don't like that sort of stuff. I'm just like, trying to write lyrics to that is like such a pain in the ass. Like that and math parts, I'm like, God, like the two that I don't want to do, I'm like, fuck. But you know, if you give me blast beats and it's like, you can literally do anything, the song's 40 seconds and it's just blasts, and I'm like, perfect, amazing. Like, you know.
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, because when I look at like, all right, if I'm listening to a band for the show and I go to Spotify, I look at the album. If I see like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I'm like, all right, cool. If I see like 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, I'm like, oh fuck. Like I like 100%. It short and sweet and hard hitting, you know?
Absolutely. And like that's very much my, like when it comes to heavy stuff, I mean, like my attention span's like cooked in general, and like and even more so when it comes to heavy music. So I'm like, yeah, when we got these like big, these long, it's like, you know, a 5 minute song and it's like, there's like industrial, like programming elements, and the riff, it's like a like Neurosis kind of riff or whatever. I'm just like, fuck, like, what am I going to write over that? Like, you know, like how do I like do my job over this stuff? I think just cause it probably just like mainly because it is so out of character for me and like new for me. I kind of have a better grasp on it now that I've done them, but I'm like, yeah, seeing like one in a length is like the first number being one and it's not 4 numbers. I'm like, fuck yeah, this rocks. Like that's what I want to see.
I've been saying this for a while on the show now. I think the breakdown at the end of Necessary Death is the best breakdown in modern hardcore, meaning let's say hardcore. Yeah, meaning let's say hardcore after like 2014 or something. Now, I had Will on the show and I proposed this to him, but he didn't really want to take a specific stance on it, which I get, because to be like, oh yeah, it is, you know, that'd be weird if you're in the band. But I'm going to pitch this to you. What do you think?
I mean, it is a good one. It's like it is. Yeah, I mean, like we knew when we were like when the demos were done, and or I guess like the guitars and drums, basic everything was done, and I'm tracking vocals. It's like we knew like, okay, that ending breakdown, like that's got to be huge, you know. Like I'm trying to think like from 2014 to now. See, if it was like 2004 to now, I you know, I've got the list memorized, but.
Yeah, I consider 2010 to now new, so that's where I'm
for
at.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know off the top of my head. Like I said, my brain's been in K-pop world. I can't think of like a recent breakdown that I've heard that isn't that I'm not singing over honestly at this point. But I think like as far as like with End goes, like Necessary Death, like that is a really good one. I really like In Fear for Me Now, like the Are You There? Like you're sick, you need to come home, like that part. I like that breakdown. I really like. I think that one nails it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really tough. It's hard to think of one specific one that I'm not involved in.
I get it. Yeah, because it's I don't know. I just like that music is weird like that. Like a million bands could maybe write a breakdown like that breakdown in Necessary Death, right? But you guys did that, and there's just a certain swing to it, and just how it keeps going. Like the drums keep going, but the guitars change a little bit. Just those little touches, and you guys doing it makes it special. And that's what's cool about music is like one person could do something, and it might not grab me as much, but another person could do something, and it's like this is the best thing ever. But that's what's cool about music.
Thank you for saying that. That's awesome. Like
of course,
it's very flattering to hear that. Thank you. I'm with you though. I mean, I think like, especially at this point now, like, just like, and even for me, like I don't really write guitar for either band. It's like, why would I? Like, those guys are better. Like they can, like, I'll just stick to the words. But, yeah, there's been like so many times where it's like, you like come up with a breakdown and it's just like, you're like, oh, this fucking rocks. And then you sit on it for a minute and then you're just like, oh crap, it's this, or like, oh, it's this too. And then you like start to think about it and you're like, yo, how many different ways can like is there honestly like a breakdown, like open breakdown that like no one's done at this point? It's like they've existed for so long and it's just like there's so many that are identical and it's like, but like you said, there's certain ones where there's just something about it, like something stands out and it's just like it can literally be like the exact tempo, like the pattern's the same tuning, everything, and it's just like one band it could just hit and with another band it might not, and it's really tough. But like, I think once we kind of realize that with both bands, even, it's just like it makes it a little bit easier. Like you're less worried about like, oh shit, did we copy somebody? And like we try not to, but there's stuff, right? Like with Counterparts, we had, I think it was like when we played Bound to the Burn live for the first time, and it's the first time people heard it, like people were commenting on the video being like, oh, it sounds like this like of Mice and Men song, or they have a similar breakdown or something. And it's just like, dog, like no shade on them. I'm like, you think any of us have heard that? It's like, dog, like you think we've listened to heavy music that came out after like 2007? Like, come on, man. Like it's open, it's zero on the guitar. Like how many different variations of that could there be? It's like, yeah, whatever.
As long as you don't sit there and exactly copy a song
For
while
sure.
listening to it, I say it's fine because, you're going to have your own touch on it. And of course, there's going to be some natural crossover.
Yep, totally. I think we accidentally in Choke, it sounds like a Foundation breakdown. And it's just like, and even for me, it's like, okay, well, like I actively I listen to Foundation. I'm like, I love that band. Like, I think I was the only one in the band at that time who had like even heard that, like who would have heard that breakdown. And it even went over my head. And it's just like, yeah, everything sounds like, everything sounds like everything if you look hard enough. And just like Counterpart sounds like End now, you know what I mean? It's like, if you just like, if you're trying to, if like you have the end goal in mind, like you can dig deep enough and find it and like make the connection there. So I'm just like, whatever. Yeah. As long, like you said, as long as we're not sitting down being like, okay, like their part goes like dun 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 e, and then we just literally copy it, and it's like, okay, vocal pattern, like I'll just change the words but keep the pattern. Then you're a loser. But if there's just like some innocent mistake, it's like, who cares? I wouldn't be mad if someone did that with us. Like I would just be like, whatever, man. Like,
no, it's all about intent.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, if someone's like, oh yeah, we copied that exactly because we liked it, I'd be like, kind of fucking lame. But if they're like, oh yeah, sorry, it was an accident, I'm like, dog, I don't care. Like,
right.
None of this. Yeah. Like none of this music is like Nine Korean Women or the 1975, I'm not listening to it. It's fine. I'm good.
So let's recap. We have Heaven Let Them Die out right now, the brand new EP from Counterparts. We want people to listen to it, to pick it up, and to go see your tour, which is spanning North America, which kicks off in February. That's with Pain of Truth and Malvolence and the Great Foreign Hands.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
That's all I can ask. You know, if you like at this point, I don't think we asked for too much. If you like the EP, just come to the fucking headliner. Don't make us play in a 2,300 cap venue to, you know, less than 1,000 people. Like for my sake, please just come out. We'll make it worth your while. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. Give Brendan a break. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
He's dealing with enough right now. Just go to the shows.
Yep. It's been long enough.
And that's a great lineup.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I'm realistically, I'm not worried about it because the lineup is so sick. And we're also like, not only are the bands all awesome and they're all doing well, and it's like every band is valuable in bringing out their own kids. We're already like friends with every band too. So it's like, even if the shows do suck, like I'll at least have fun because like I'll just get to hang with 30 of my friends every single night. So who cares? You know, I'm not as worried about it as I was. Absolutely.
And how about End? Are we working on new stuff? What's the story?
Yeah. I think just because Will's been busy with Better Lovers this year, I'm busy with Counterparts next year. It's like, you know, I don't know when exactly, but that's kind of next up. Like the next thing, like what we've talked about being sort of the next thing for the band. It's like, okay, once everybody's got a little bit of downtime, or even, you know, while I'm on all of these tours next year, it's like maybe Will and Greg can get together and put together some new like demos and stuff, send them my way. I can work on them. And then whenever I've got time off, I can go track vocals and, you know, so, but as far as End goes, it's like the next thing up, like we're probably going to, we'll probably get some new music out. I don't know if it's going to be an EP or full length or a split. I have no idea what it'll end up being, but there's still songs that are like recorded and just don't have vocals because I haven't written lyrics to them yet that like were extras from the last LP. So it's like there is music that exists.
Awesome. Well, Brendan, I just want to say thanks so much for coming on the show. I've been listening to you a long time. I love everything you're doing, so keep doing it, and thank you.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me. This was a good one, a real good conversation. Hopefully, I didn't talk too much, but this was great. Thanks for letting me yap. I appreciate it.
And there you have it. Brendan Murphy. What a great conversation. You know, I really like conversations like that where we just go and then it's going and it goes in directions that I don't expect. I'm always happy to talk about gaming and gaming PCs with anybody. And I think Brendan has inspired me to finish Elden Ring. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I have to beat that game. I have to. I just want to. So if you have not heard Heaven Let Them Die by Counterparts, I really recommend that you do so. It's so good. And they've just put out so much great music. And I've been a fan of since I discovered them in 2020. And they just continue to put out amazing music that gets me really pumped up. I've seen them live a number of times. They're awesome. I think I'm going to go to that Counterparts Foreign Hands tour. I think I need to see that. So great stuff. Thank you so much, Brendan, for coming on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? I am doing okay. It's been a stressful week. Day job is really busy. Podcast is really busy. It's a new year. You know, we're hitting the ground running. There's a lot of stuff to do. And this is one of those weeks where I've just had to work through the day into the night. So I'm trying to get everything done as early as possible on Friday so that I can sit around a bit tomorrow. There's not a whole lot going on. You know, there's not much to report on for me here. I will give you some advance information. The Memory Entry EP announcement is coming in late February. So the EP will be announced. There will be some other stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's basically the only thing I'm working on right now, and we are working on writing LP1. I want to send special well wishes to everyone being affected by the fires out in California right now. So many people that I know have been affected, friends, guests of the show, PR people that I talk to, so many people. There's so much devastation out there. I hope everybody's doing all right. It's awful. It's just awful what's going on out there. I hope that our country starts to put more money into our infrastructure and services that help prevent these kind of things. And I hope better days are ahead. So I'm sending my regards out to everybody who is being affected right now. So let's check in with the New Scene Community Hour. We got a lot of great feedback on our episode with Jesse Leach of Killswitch Engage. I was so happy that we got Jesse Leach on the show. After I posted it that Monday, I went and listened to like a bunch of Killswitch Engage records again, and I'm really excited for This Consequence, their new record, which is coming out soon, so can't wait to hear that. So we got some Spotify comments here about the episode. Ronan McEvoy said, I love this interview. Jesse is a genuine inspiration for men struggling to get through life in a healthy way. And Bob McCobb said, great episode. They all are. This podcast is always well-informed and goes deep. You must listen. Ronan, thank you for that comment. And Bob, thank you for that comment. Yes, Bob is right. You must listen. So thank you so much to everybody supporting the show, everyone who messages, writes, all of that stuff. It helps. So follow me on Instagram at New Scene Pod, like posts, comment on posts, drop a Spotify 5-star review, drop an Apple Podcasts 5-star review. Leave comments under the Spotify episodes like Bob and Ronan did. This all feeds the algorithm, and we must adhere to our algorithmic overlords to pump in engagement and keep getting fed. So, no, I'm being facetious, but all of that stuff helps. Thank you so much to everybody who's doing it. Let's keep this machine rolling. That's all I've got for this week, and we're back next week with a brand new episode and a brand new guest. And I'll see you then.